Hi, this is John Gerard, owner of Quail Homes. We're here today really to talk about how some people choose a builder. So maybe you can share with us your experiences. Why don't you explain your company name?
Okay, our company name is Rich Art Family Incorporated, and I was raised here in Clark County, Washington. My dad was a small custom home builder, and as a child we packed lumber and pounded nails on a framing crew before nail guns were invented or manufactured trusses. So my experience is here in Clark County, and then that grew into all the various trades in the pickup field of construction, home building specifically. And then later in the 70s, there was a pretty good economic downturn. My dad went to work for a large volume, I'll call tract builder that built 200 houses a year here in Clark County. And he asked if he could bring his boys along with him, and we did. And we worked for that company until the recession of 1979. I had an injury and became a real estate salesperson and sold tract homes there. And in 1981, after being married in 1980, there was a recession of 79 to 83. Interest rates were so high you couldn't get a mortgage on a house for less than 15, 16%. I drove to Olympia and got my contractor's license and started Rich Art General Contracting, and we incorporated in 1983. My dad joined us for a short period and my brother, and we grew to 50 employees, 3 or 4 locations around the state doing weatherization for low-income agencies, utilities. We also do building constructions to include housing. We built houses, renovated apartment complexes and public housing, and also an electrical contracting division. And we're now 45 years into that. I'm mostly retired. My daughter and 2 partners have taken over.
So one of the things when people choose a builder, here's Rick and his family. He's literally been in the industry for decades. And he's shared with me his upbringing with his mother being German. He'd have a magnet walking job sites, and his dad made him pick up all the nails on the ground, so they were watching every penny, right?
Yeah, it's it's
just part of your culture.
Cost control is paramount in any. The battle cry of a contractor should be know your cost.
So that part of choosing a builder, I'm sure that was part of your experience, is when we get referred by industry, or we have an industry, I'd call more of a Hall of Fame company. His company is well known here. When they choose you, we take great honor in the choice, but then we have to back up the work. As you can tell, with somebody like this, they're going to watch it very closely. So let's talk about the budgeting side first, because everybody has money that they're going to put into a project, and a lot of times working with the builder, you want to make sure that that money, they're a good steward of it. So what was your experiencing in not only the budgeting, but also the build out and how that all worked?
Well, a lot of our contracting, in my experiences, is reading contracts, public bid contracts, AIA documentation, and cost control. And accounting is the language of business, it's been said many times. And this was a cost plus contract. It was very transparent, so we could see every cost. There's likely to be 30 to 40 vendors and subcontractors involved in a project, and we get to be involved as the client to see where those costs are. So when price grows or the cost grows in a project, it's likely due to a buyer or an owner wanting increased scope and scale of the project. And so that transparency and teamwork in the accounting process and the budgeting was paramount to making a project work. And we do a lot of that with public bid clients, because the taxpayer and the owners or the stewards of that need to know costs, and in this case it was just a great fit, and we understood that process.
So that's one thing that I don't know, people don't know this, but I actually have an accounting degree, but I wanted to be a home builder. That's why I took that degree. You would as a subject to study, but I knew what Rick said, it's really the backbone of business. So when you look at how we operate our business, our construction schedules, our accounting system, everything's based on accounting codes and sequence of how to build the home. And so as let's say work is performed on a monthly basis. That's what this cost plus means. We get our fee every month as we bill out, and we're giving progress payments to the client, in this case with him, and they scrutinize the invoices. They're the owner, and we need to be razor sharp on that. Another nice thing that we did on every job that we did here is every month when you see our draw, you actually saw the finish line budget. And that's different. Not a lot of builders do this. And the reason is like we build these homes for clients, a significant investment for them. We feel that they need a financial statement every month, and that's the draw. Tell us how that kind of worked for you.
Well, I'm familiar with the process, and one of the benefits to buying with John is his experience, over 30 years in the industry. So he has the experience, that is, has made mistakes along the way and gained all the experience to be successful.
I call it paying dumb taxes.
Right, he was, made all the stupid mistakes.
Yeah.
And he was also a high school and college quarterback, so he has a sense of organization, teamwork, and structure that not every builder has. In the accounting process, so his accounting degree was a checked box because I knew that they would have a great process, and the process is so critical in whether it's team sports or whether it's in business, whether it's in military. It's a critical piece, and so every month when we would get the invoices and the accounting report and the monthly progress billing, we could see what the cost to complete was. And that's important because every home buyer that's building a custom home that may have chosen some nicer things along the way that weren't originally planned for needs to see those additional cost overruns that are there, that there are change order processes in place. So the accountability of this, that's why they call it accounting. It's accountability, was easy to find. And again, when you have 30 to 40 vendors and subcontractors, there can be little mistakes, but you're able to flesh that out. And working with John, his son Jeremy, and the accounting team at Quail made it so simple to just go in and review things, ask questions, because every accounting process isn't exactly the same in John's company and mine, but they're so similar. It's easy to dig through the weeds and come to good conclusions and an understanding, and we had that all the way through.
And what we really want to do is show what the future costs will be so you can make decisions in real time. A lot of times when people build homes with these custom builders, they're going to give you the draw form, and there's going to be an overrun of $40,000, $50,000 that you didn't expect, and we just don't think that's the right way. Let's kind of go into your expertise, which is energization of these homes and high efficiency. So part of picking us, I think you knew we did that, and so I knew, of course, his business. And I'm thinking, hey, we better back this up. This guy really knows what he's doing. Tell us about what you went through, not only picking the builder, but maybe your experience, because now you've been in your home a little over a year now?
Yes.
So you got some history here. Tell us about that.
Well, we got involved in utility weatherization with Clark Public Utilities with no understanding of what being an energy conservation contractor was. We thought it was insulation and windows and weather stripping. Well, that building science has evolved tremendously, and it's a big part of our national energy strategy, and it's a great piece of government and utility spending because it is the testing ground for home building codes, and John was an early adopter of that, and I could see it in his writings long before I knew him, in things that I read in newspaper articles and his advertisements, that he was heavily involved in the building sciences, and as were we, and we could see what energy savings would do and could do. It's a way of producing energy. Essentially, if you're not using the energy, it conserves, and it's a form of production. John understood this, and so fast forward it to the things that we did in this house that he had already been doing, that I saw, whether it starts at the crawl space and the insulation and the sill seals, all the things that are code compliant now, but additional things. We did a exterior wall sheeting that was probably one of the first ones around.
It was.
What's it called? NovaCore, which is styrofoam insulation bonded with your sheeting material, OSB in this case, to eliminate cold wall syndrome on the exterior walls. Staggered studs and blown in blanket insulation. Then once the drywall was in and all the penetration has been sealed, they had something called air barrier, which was a latex and a depressurization process with a blower door that seals all the leaks. So you can imagine a latex spray machine in here spewing out latex, and it goes to all the small holes, tightening up the house tremendously. We also went with Marvin's Best windows, their ultimate, and I can't say enough good about that. And John was heavily involved in this process, and his team to help us through that, a worthwhile expense. We also are big into solar and anything we can do with renewables. We do have a good building site here with great solar exposure. We put in a 16 kW ground mount solar panel system, and this month from January of 2026 to February 4th is our last month in a 12-month period of billing cycle using the solar panels. Our total electric bill on a 3,200 square foot single level home with my wife and I, and occasionally the extended family and grandkids here, will equate to the entire year's electrical bill with Clark Public Utilities will probably be about $100 after the solar benefit that we've had. But the testimony is not just in the energy savings and what we did with the solar panels, but the housing system. You know, the old saying that you can heat something with a candle. Gosh, it's unbelievably comfortable.
That's one of our goals is really to have consistent temperature throughout the home. We try to go 2 or 3 degrees per room, so you don't have that variable hot and cold spots, stuff like this. And in the big picture, when you look at this energy, he comes from a business, that's what they're doing. And I took a look at probably around 2006 of what the future energy codes were going to be and how we were going to set our clients up for success, but also looked at it from a macro level. In today's world, we all know the grid and these AI centers take up energy and all this. Well, just think of each house got a little bit better, that it's incremental savings. In this case, they're seeing, I don't know, how big is this home? 3,400 square feet?
3,200 square feet. It's 2,550 square feet plus a 600 square foot ADU.
Yeah, so, and an ADU as well. So when you factor all that in, you know, you're pushing 4,000 square feet. And when you talk net zero, it's an easy thing to say, but a guy like him isn't going to take it because he wants that net zero approach, and it's nice to see that it's being delivered.
It's been fun. Now, it could be said that you could do better putting your money in a mutual fund. It might be a risky one. We find this to have, if my calculations are accurate, and I'll be checking with the Clark Public Utilities people in the next month or so, but I think that we're going to have about a 13, 14-year payback. But the idea that you can not use energy from the grid is really an outstanding thing. So we're making room for others.
So let's go on another area that I'm really, I'd say as a builder, a pet peeve of mine is drainage. And I know this site, the way this worked out, and we got a little bit of higher ground on this end of the home, just the way the site worked out. And I know in his world, water damage and things like this, anything to do with water, and he and I speak the same language. What did you experience here during the build and now that you've lived here, just regarding water?
Well, you know, with my home building background and construction experience, I set out to actually build a house myself, and I designed it. I've done that multiple times in my life and designed and built my own house. And with this one, we decided that it was time to let somebody else build our house. And John is a home building specialist, and we don't build enough homes any longer. The last one I built was probably 10, 15 years ago. I can't recall for sure. And so the building sciences keep evolving. Particularly with drainage, I was impressed because we're in a location here where we have hydric soils, and that is a layer of good soil on top of hard pan, and that hard pan creates a barrier like the swimming pool bottom. So you can have all the water that we get here in the Pacific Northwest go down below the porous soil and pool up on that hard pan, and you could have issues. So what Quail Homes has done is, because we are building in the Northwest, and I can tell you that my neighbor next door, who had, his home was built by a builder in Clark County in 1990, the builder no longer lives there. They have water under the crawl space, which can cause all kinds of problems. Mold, insect habitat, rot, health issues, all of that. This house has a passive drainage system. So what Quail does is, being experienced here in Northwest building design and having lots of experience with that, when they grade for the foundation pour, they grade to a V. So there is a low point, and it goes downhill to a low point drain. And when they put in the footings for the stem walls and other foundational pieces in the crawl space, they put pipes under there. So every bit of water, if there ever is any water, would drain through these pipes, go to the low point V, and drain down to the very low point drain, much like you see in city streets and things like that. So it ends up there, and then it pipes it outside to a drain retention area or distribution center. And now that's part of it. The other part is outside and around the perimeter of the foundation. So we have perimeter drainage around the outside of the foundation, especially on the areas that, that the site determines need that. And John handles, for his custom clients, and probably most of his clients, he is heavily involved in the storm drainage, getting the foundation up, getting the site work done, getting the building structure ready to go on top of the foundation. So we also had a drainage ditch or system put in around the perimeter outside the parking area and driveway to assure that drainage around the house was not going to exacerbate and create problems in the crawl space. So knowing what we can have happen with water under a crawl space and the damage that moisture can cause in a structure, I've inspected the crawl space a couple of times, especially during the wettest times since the build, and I am so pleasantly surprised how well it works. It is simple, it is passive, it costs a little money, but it's the right thing to do for the long term of any building structure. Couldn't be more pleased with the results it gains.
Yeah, he mentioned something that my role is I work with our superintendent and our trade partners on getting the foundations and drainage in. You remember we talked about dumb taxes before? Well, that's one of the big ones. Is if you can get everything set up right, then it goes a lot better. Particularly dealing with water. Water's a long-term problem if you don't handle it right. And everybody's heard these ads on the radio for these crawl space remediation companies, and they're predators, really, when you think about it, because if the builder would have done it right, you'd never need to call them.
Yeah, or if the codes were right at the time when some of those homes
Yeah.
were built, and they weren't.
So when we look at the site, and this is, when you pick a builder, it's probably a good idea to investigate this part, because every site's different. This site needed some different things that you might not do somewhere else. And we're conscious about not really spending money when we don't need to, but one area that you don't scrimp on is really dealing with the water. Let's talk about the fit and finish. You know, I'd recruit your wife, but she's a little camera shy, so you're gonna have to speak for her.
Yeah.
But what a beautiful home. Did it turn out how you wanted?
You know, exceeded expectations is easy to say. You know, we often, Cindy, John's superintendent, was just a delight to work with. One of the best communicators, as was Nicole in the design phase. And John set us up for that. And I believed the experience would be as he said it would be, and it has been all the way through. We didn't have any pipe dream that there would be no adversity or challenges along the way, but they were so few because the process is in place. So get to fit and finish, and started with Nicole. Once John and Missy and my wife had done our business to get things started, and we had a great understanding and we came to terms, it was off to Nicole for design work and specification, selection of products, colors, materials, all of that. And here's where another critical piece of having a complete game, and what Quail has, is his list of vendors, relationships, subcontractors, and his staff all understand what the objectives are. So we are extraordinarily pleased. There were things that I wanted. I wanted Marvin Ultimate Windows, and we got those, and we're pleased with that. And they were accommodating. Not every custom builder is going to allow you to the room to pick the things that you want, but the fit and finish is just excellent. And we have built multi-million-dollar homes and additions and things like that along the way. And I've been to resort properties and worked with finished carpenter crews and flooring installers and cabinet providers and tile workers and all of these folks. And it was really just about as seamless operation as I could ask for, and very communicative with every vendor, every subcontractor, and it was just a pleasure. We had a great time. Now we bought things that we didn't think we were going to buy in the beginning, but you only get that chance to add that electrical plug or these extra things one time, or that tile or those things you want. So we upgraded some things along the way. That process was wonderful, not just with John and his staff and the superintendent and the people in their accounting department, but also with the vendors. Very accommodating. They were just all a pleasure to work with. And I'm sure it helps to understand the process. And they also allowed me to be out here all the time. They had a piece in the contract that says you can't come out till after 4 on the weekends. I said, well, we're not going to do that, are we? And I was here all the time and buying lunches and donuts and slowing down the process, but it was just an extraordinary experience, and the quality, fit, and finish is top drawer. And we looked at, when you look at maybe somebody that you might say is a tract or a merchant or a production builder, John only builds 10 or so custom homes a year. I specifically wanted somebody that had the experience and depth of multiple homes going at once, understood the production process so well, and then was willing to do a custom home, because custom homes and custom clients can be a lot of high maintenance. And he was willing to do that. With 30 plus years in the building business, I feel there was no better fit for us.
Thanks. Anything else you want to say?
No, we're happy.
I think that's the bottom line.
Do I get a Hawaii vacation out of this?
How about a head shake?
Yeah.